Okay, so we were back to Hilchos Matnos Aniyim Chapter 10, which we didn't finish. I didn't realize we were so close to the end. I don't know why we didn't just finish last time. Last thing we did was the 8 levels of Tzedakah, and now we are up to the final halachos in the parak. Okay, so we'll hopefully finish this tomorrow. If not, I guess we don't do it tomorrow on your last day, then we'll do it Wednesday. Okay. Hanosin mizonos levanav uvlivnosov hagedolim she'eno chayav b'mizonosehem. So someone who gives food or sustenance to his sons and daughters who are adults, who he's not obligated in providing for them. Okay, why? Kedei lalamid hazacharim Torah ulahanhi gabanos b'derech yashara v'lo yiyu mevuzos, in order to teach the males Torah and to guide the daughters in an upright path. And that they, now I assume that they, Yeshayihu is talking about the sons and the daughters, because it says Yeshayihu, and that they should not be bezuyos, mevuzos, degraded. Okay. And similarly, someone who gives, provides food for his father and mother, this is included in tzedakah. Okay, so this is a common question about like people who support their adult children or their children who are like, not like minors. Is that tzedakah? The answer is yes. Okay. Now he does say, he gives reasons, right? He says so that the sons can learn Torah and that the daughters can be, I don't even know what that means. Lahani habanos b'derech yashara, so they could be like governed in an upright way. I'm not exactly sure what that means. And then his own parents. I don't think it's limited to that though. It seems like if they had any sorts of needs, then that would be included in tzedakah. But he goes further and he says, "Tzedakah gedolahi." It's a huge tzedakah. Why? Shakarov kodem, because your relatives come first in the priority of tzedakah, like we've talked about. And then he transitions in the same halacha. This is an interesting transition. Anyone who provides food and drink to the poor and to the orphans from his own table, then that person will call to Hashem and Hashem will answer him. And that person will have, okay, this is a hard word to translate. Misaneg alav, will have enjoyment provided for him on God. Okay, well, you'll see what that means from the psukim in a second. The Machli says, Misaneg alav yeshlo tanus gashmim, he'll have physical enjoyments. Shneimar, as it says, Az tikra v'Hashem yaneh. It says in Yeshayahu, then you will call and Hashem will answer. Okay, so let's look at that in context. All right, this is one of my, few things that I know in Yeshayahu. This is the Haftorah of Yom HaKippurim, when it talks about. I'm actually going to read it for the sake of speed. I'm going to read this in English because it's long. It's not super long, but so I want to get into the ideas. So this is in chapter 58. So this is the okay, so this is ArtScroll's translation, and there's words in brackets, but this is a really, really good, it's a really good Navi, not for me to say who's a good Navi now, but this is really good. Okay, so it's talking, it says, cry out vociferously, okay, meaning cry out like with a loud voice, don't restrain yourself. Raise your voice like a shofar, proclaim to my people, this is God talking, their willful sins, the house of Jacob, their transgressions. They pretend to seek me every day, and they desire to know my ways, like a nation that acts righteously and has not forsaken the justice of its God. They inquire of me about the laws of justice, as if they desire the nearness of God, asking, oh, you know what, maybe I have this in translation in a blog post, hold on. Yeshayahu 58, yeah?
What about the all-Torah translation?
The all-Torah translation is the old JPS archaic one, and I'm not a fan of that. Okay, it picks up right where I was going to read. Okay, good. 3, okay. Sorry, no, not yet. Oh, no, not quite yet. Oh, yeah, right here. So this is what the people are asking. Why did we fast and you did not see? Why did we afflict our souls and you did not know? So they're calling out to God and saying, like, we're fasting, why aren't you noticing us? So he says, can such be the fast I choose, a day when man merely afflicts himself? Can it be merely bowing one's head like a bulrush and spreading sackcloth and ashes? Do you call this a fast and a day of favor to Hashem? Surely, now here, so the answer is no. It's a rhetorical question. So now God's going to describe what kind of fast he actually values. Surely this is the fast I choose, to break open the shackles of wickedness, to undo the bonds of injustice, to let the oppressed go free and annul all perversion. Surely you should break your bread for the hungry and bring the moaning poor to your home. When you see a naked person, clothe him and do not hide yourself from your kin. Then your light will burst out like the dawn and your healing will speedily sprout. Your righteous deed will precede you and the glory of Hashem will gather you in. Here's our pasuk. Then you will call, and Hashem will respond. You will cry out, and He will say, "Here I am." If you remove from your midst perversion, finger pointing, and evil speech, and offer your soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then your light will shine into the darkness, and your deepest gloom will be like the noon. Okay, then he goes a few psukim further than what my translation was. V'nachacha ad Hashem tamid. God will guide you constantly. V'hispia b'tzachos nafshecha v'atzmos secha yachlit, which means then Hashem will guide you always. Sate your soul in times of drought and strengthen your bones. V'hayisa kigan rave. You'll be like a watered garden. Ukamotza mayim asher lo yichaz v'mimav, like a wellspring of water whose waters don't go dry. Banu mimacha charvos olam moste dor vador tekomem bekor lecha goder peret meshovev nesivos lashavas. Ancient ruins will be rebuilt through you. You will restore generations old foundations, and they will call you repairer of the breach and restorer of the paths of habitation. Okay, two more psukim. Okay, then translation into Shabbos. Im tashiv mishabbos raglecha. If you withhold your foot on Shabbos, asos chavatecha b'yom kachi, doing your desires on my holy day, the karasa l'Shabbos oneg, and you declare Shabbos an enjoyment, l'kadosh Hashem mechubad, the Holy One of Hashem honored, and you honor Shabbos by refraining from your going about your ways, and seeking your desires and speaking in speech. Okay, those are all allusions to things that became D'Rabbanan. Az tis'ana gal Hashem, then your enjoyment will be on Hashem. V'hir kavticha al b'amas ha'aretz, and He will elevate you, cause you to ride on the heights of the earth. He will feed you from the inheritance of Yaakov, your father, because the mouth of Hashem has spoken. Okay, so really mysterious psukim here, but the part I want to point out is if you just read the Rambam and he says that if you support the poor, God will, then you'll call out and God will answer. You would think, oh, this is a way to get your tefillahs answered, right? But the way that the context of the Navi points it out is no, it was bad. You were crying out and God was not answering you because you were not doing this. It's not just like, this is like a bonus, like signal boost for calling out to Hashem. It's that insofar as you're not involved in this, and you're trying to appeal to Hashem through doing these like fasting and like sackcloth and all these like ritual things, but you're not involved in justice, God will refuse to answer you. But when you do this and you use those fasts and stuff as a means for like actually, living a life of tzedakah and mishpat, so then Hashem will answer you. The question though is, why is this in one halacha, right? You have supporting your adult children and your parents, that's tzedakah. Then he says it's a good tzedakah because it's a relative. And then he says, and anyone who feeds the poor and the orphans as on their table, then God will answer them when they call out. So like, what's the unity here? I mean, it's all like doing good tzedakah.
What was the last one?
The last one is if you provide food and drink for the poor and the orphans at your table, then God will, then you'll call out to God and He'll answer, and then He'll provide you with physical enjoyments. Yeah.
Is there all points is a special advance than just giving someone money?
You elaborate? What do you mean?
As especially saying higher forms of tzedakah and supporting your relatives and the people at your own table, not just giving them tzedakah, like inviting them to your table.
Okay, so I think the table is the key. Okay, right? So I actually got this from the Malbim. I was looking into these psukim here, and the Malbim said, so in the Hebrew, when it talks about the poor, it says in Pasuk Zayin, Halo faros lara ev lachmecha, if you break your bread for the starving, the anim merudim tavi bayis, and the downtrodden poor you bring into your house, kisire aron v'chisi, so when you see a naked person and you clothe him, umi basarcha lo tisalem, and literally do not hide from your own flesh. So the Malbim says an interesting thing here. He says, Achar shiber tanai hatzom, after explaining the conditions for the fast, Halo zetzom, when Hashem says this is the fast that I choose, Mivar tanai ha'inui, it's talking about the condition for the affliction. Da kilo b'inui nefesh chafetz Hashem, God does not want you to afflict your nefesh. Lo b'mesh ata tochal, rak b'mesh titin l'ra'ev lechol. In other words, God doesn't want you to be afflicted by starving yourself. he wants you to give food to the people who are starving. And it says 2 levels of tzedakah, one higher than the other. Before I actually read on, I just want to emphasize, I know I've talked about this before, but like one of the purposes of the fast day is you are voluntarily depriving yourself of food and experiencing hunger. But what that should get you to do is it should get you to realize that you're doing this as a choice, but there are people who experience hunger who don't have a choice. And those are the people who you should be taking care of on that day. In other words, you're supposed to be putting yourself in a state where you can empathize with people in a physical way, which should lead to emotional empathy, which should lead to doing of actual justice. So that's what, whenever you have hunger pangs on a fast day, I think that's a good thing to like program yourself to feel, which is like I'm hungry, but I can eat after taste tonight. But like there are people who are hungry and can't eat. And those are the people who, that's the reason why I'm fasting today, so that I can take care of those people. Okay, so 2 levels of tzedakah. One, you provide for the poor his needs in bread and clothing and a house. So that's the normal tzedakah. Second one is what you were saying. Neged lechem Omer pros l'ra'ev lachnacha, break bread for the poor. Af sheyesh lecha lechem shalim, even if you have whole bread, tifros chet ani, give half of it to the ani. V'shetitin lo min halechem shelcha hanaki, give him your white bread. Again, white bread was, or the pure flour bread, meaning the high quality bread. V'neged hadira, and regarding the house, Omer, it says va'anim merudim tavi bayis. The downtrodden poor bring into your household. V'neged haksus, and regarding the clothing, mi basarcha al tisalim, don't hide yourself from your flesh. Lo yihi ezeh dome etzlecha kilu ata gozel es basarcha al basar chutzalach. I think this is a great lashon. Don't treat it as though you are stealing from your own flesh to give to the flesh outside of you. Rak kilu nasato al basarcha. When you clothe the ani, it should be like getting clothing for yourself. Ki kol b'nei adam him basar echad. All people are one flesh. So this is like I gave yeshayihu shir yesterday, and I forgot which pasuk it was. Oh yeah, it was the pasuk about I'll just recap this because Fistel had a good example of this. I think it was on this pasuk. So the pasuk in yeshayihu in Mishlei 31. It's actually 2 pasukim. 31, 19, and 20. Yadeha shilcha v'kishor v'chapaha tamchuf alech. Her hand extends to the spindle and her palms support the distaff, which are 2 types of things you use to make thread. And then it also says kapa parsa la'ani. Her palm is extended to the poor. Yadeha shilcha la'evyon, and her hand stretches forth to the desperately poor. So there's some analogy being made because each pasuk uses yad and kaf, right? So her hands are involved in her sewing, and her hands are involved in giving tzedakah. So the idea that we said from Rabbi Moskowitz was, and from the Meiri, is that she's involved in taking care of her own needs and doing her own work. But as soon as a poor person comes, she like will go and help them, and she doesn't feel like, well, I made all of this for myself and this is my family. She relates to another human being in the same way that she relates to her own family, even though practically she does give priority to her family. But she won't like say like, oh, I worked so hard for this, I'm not going to give any to the poor. And I think this is the pasuk that Pistel said. Like if a woman is planning, like yeshayihu is planning a simcha, if she plans for her another Jew's simcha with the same level of dedication and energy and excitement as she does for her own simcha, like that's a high level, and that's like what this Navi is saying, that a lot of people feel like they have, okay, this is my money and my clothing, and I'm giving it to this person. But if they gave it to themselves, they would feel like, no, this is my money that I have a right to. But the Malbim is emphasizing the fact that like this person is, it's just sharing. Like these poor people are a member of your house, And I think that's the key, is that the unifying thing in the halacha here is it's expanding your idea of what the household is. It's like you tell this guy, oh, you can provide tzedakah for your own kids, and he's like, oh, nice. I my tuition is going to count as a tzedakah, or however that works halachically. And you say, oh, you can provide for your parents. Oh, that's tzedakah, great. Yeah, and you can provide for the poor and have them come into your house. And he's like, oh yeah, right. So like, but that's exactly the point, is that these people should be a member of your household. And again, that's very, that's very hard for us to do now because it's not socially acceptable. But they say that like, you go into Reb Chaim Soloveitchik's house and it's just like tons of just poor people just in his house, just hanging out and like eating food and like providing for them. That was like the ideal. Okay, let's do one more so we can get to the next topic tomorrow. Tzivu Chachamim, the Chachamim commanded, which we learned earlier this year from the Ad Pshuta, that when the Rambam says the Chachamim commanded, it means good advice. Doesn't mean like a chiv d'Rabbanan. Sheyihu b'nei beiso shel adam aniyim b'yisomim b'mukom ha'avadim. Okay, they commanded, they advised that that in a person's household, the poor and the orphans should be in place of servants. Okay, now that does not mean you should go enslave the poor and the orphans, but it means that it says mutav lo lihishtamish ba'elu v'yehanu b'nei Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov minachasav. Better that for you to utilize these people, and that you should provide benefit for Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov from your own possessions, your own property. V'lo yehanu b'hem zeracham, and they should not be. You should not be provided for from the offspring of Ham. I guess he's using Ham because Ham is gets the Canaan has the curse of Eved Avadim Yihye Le'achav. He'll be a servant of servants. I assume that's a reference there. Shekol Marbe Avadim, the more Avadim a person has, B'chol Yom V'Yom Yosef Chet V'Avon Ba'olam. Wow. Okay, I was looking for a quote like this. I've been on the look for. I wrote this article last week about the Isser to free a. There's an Isser to free a non-Jewish slave. Okay, but the loophole, so to speak, is you can free them to do a mitzvah. And I was trying to reconcile that with like this idea I've heard that the Torah is morally against slavery and envisions for slavery to be like completely eradicated. And I've been on the lookout for like statements that like discourage slavery, and I missed this one. The im yihu aniyim b'nei beso, but if aniyim are a member of your household, b'chol shah v'shah mosif zechus mitzvos, then you're going to at every moment you're going to increase zechus and mitzvos. So I always wonder, we live on the border of one of the most wealthy Jewish cities in the United States, right, Lawrence, and you see people who are wealthy and they have like cleaning people, and they have, some of them have like nannies and stuff, and I bet they don't know about this halacha, but this really is saying that if you're going to employ people who are like servants of any sort, you really should be employing poor Jews, and that is providing them with a livelihood. Like as we saw that in the 8 levels of tzedakah, the highest level is, he says, I think it's the highest level here. Where is it? Mala gedola she'in lamala mimeno zeh machzik b'yad Yisrael shemach. You strengthen the hand of a Jew who is poor. V'nosin lo matana o halva o osim u'shutuvus umamti lo malacha. Right? You give him a gift or a loan or a partnership, or you produce malacha for him. K'dei l'chazik es yado ad shelo yitztar labrios v'lo yishal, until he doesn't need people anymore and doesn't need to beg. Right, so this providing employment for a maidservant who's Jewish is the highest level of tzedakah, and he's saying here that you are increasing your zechus because you're also, you're caring for the aniyim, but you're also you're keeping the wealth within the Jewish people, right? So, I wonder how many wealthy Jews actually do this, and I wonder how many of them just don't even know about it. It's a good thing to get the word out there. Not that I have connections in that regard, but given the share, putting this out there. Okay, so Bli Neder, tomorrow we have 4 halachos. Yeah,
it doesn't conflict with like embarrassing them.
Yeah, right, and that's we noticed that in the levels of tzedakah after that, it goes to the anonymity thing. Like the double blind is the best, but I guess at the end of the day, we want
work and you're being paid.
Yeah, it's a much more dignified way to go about it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for coming. We'll try to finish it tomorrow. If not, then the next day.